Hey, good morning. So I watched a debate on Joe Rogan last night between Douglas Murray and Dave Smith. And if you haven't seen it, well, definitely you should watch it. It's 3 hours. And I'm going to play a couple clips for you. But I was really, really disappointed. You know those videos you see where it says, like, Ben Shapiro destroys somebody. The title of this video wouldn't be Dave Smith destroys Douglas Murray. I think the title would be Douglas Murray destroys himself. It was, again, Douglas Murray appears to me to be a very intelligent guy. Maybe it's because he has an English accent and he has a high vocabulary. We make that mistake. But the way he debated was frankly embarrassing. He used straw mans constantly. He talked around the issues. He would be very pedantic. I'm going to play you a couple clips and I'll kind of show you what I mean and maybe make a comment or two on it. But this is at the beginning.
To do long format stuff where he can really explain his position.
If you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. Mm-hmm. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
Do you think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing that. I think Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly talking about Israel.
No, I don't know if I'm mainly talking about Israel.
That's all I see you
I have
on the
opinions.
internet.
Yeah, but this
That might be what you've seen.
It's
but
just
I don't
you
think that's
consuming
But that is also your shtick now, isn't it?
Well, what do you mean by that's my shtick?
Well, you're not a geopolitics guy in general, are you?
I don't even know exactly what you're asking.
I'm saying you've decided, being a comedian, you've decided now to become somebody who talks about Israel.
I think you're incorrect. I don't think it's a decision. I just think you have long-form conversations, multiple of them. It's a huge event that's in the news, so it comes up. I don't think it's a thing. I think if you're on the outside, you'd say, oh, look, they're trying to get attention by talking about this very polarizing issue publicly.
You do get attention from that. If you'd spent the last year speaking about Myanmar, you would not be on my lips.
Yeah, but he does talk about Yemen constantly. He talks about a lot of things that aren't in the news.
Well, I tend to talk about the conflicts that my government is directly involved in, which I think is reasonable to me. But I don't quite get, like, what's all the appeal to authority stuff? I mean, you have to be an expert? Or
no, I think authority matters.
I
think authority matters. And I think that if you just throw a lot of shit out there and then say, I'm not interested in...
Okay. That's just the beginning, and what he's basically doing, at least in my mind, is he's saying that Dave has no standing in this debate. His opinions are irrelevant because he's not an expert. Now, later in the debate, of course, Dave nails him with the fact that, I'm not a doctor either, and I'm not an infectious disease expert, but should I not have questioned the lockdowns? Should I not have questioned the fact that the vaccine stops the disease dead in its tracks when it didn't, which is what the experts told us. The experts told us that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction when we attacked Iraq. So Dave kind of threw that back in his face. And I got to say, during this debate, I'm going to go forward a little bit while I'm talking to you, but it's not that Dave did a brilliant job. He did a good job. I mean, I like Dave a lot, Dave Smith, but it's more that Douglas Murray just basically embarrassed himself. He kept doing that where he would question someone's ability to have a debate based on their background as opposed to talking about what they're talking about, like challenge the issues they're bringing or the opinions they have and say, this is why I think you're wrong. He didn't do that through this entire debate. I'm looking for minute 141 of this. He basically kept going to the fact that he would try to argue straw man arguments. He would say things like, if you criticize Churchill, which a lot of people have, I mean, just not that Churchill was a bad guy, but maybe in retrospect, there were some decisions he made that could have been made differently. And so Douglas Murray automatically says, whoa, so now you're saying that Hitler was this great guy. And he's saying, I didn't say that Hitler was a great guy. Nobody's saying that Hitler was a great guy. They're simply saying that that maybe there was some, in retrospect, we can identify some mistakes that were made. And Douglas Murray, again, that's what you call a straw man, where you take, someone says something negative about Churchill, therefore he must be saying something positive about Hitler. Anyway, I think this is the part. Let me skip ahead to minute 41
So I
here.
think they disengaged in order to kill the peace process. I think they put the full blockade around the country for the reason that they've always kind of done it there, that, yeah, they don't want too much stuff getting in. They want to keep them, as they put it, on a diet, and they don't want rockets to fly into Israel.
The second one is a kind of important one, isn't it? The final
Yeah,
one you said.
it is.
Okay, real quick, this is the part where Douglas Murray basically says that Dave has no right to have an opinion on Gaza because he's never been there.
If the Palestinian leadership in Gaza after 2005 had not from the get-go decided to use Gaza as a stockpiling place for rockets to fire into Israel, all of it would be different. If they had just resisted the temptation that so many of us do in our lives to stop keeping RPGs in our cellars and then Katyusha rockets in our children's bedrooms, all of it could have been different. If that desire to live in peace beside your neighbors had superseded the desire to stockpile rockets, it would all be different.
Yeah, or if
And
Israel
what
just
you
hadn't
describe
occupied
as-
them for 60 years, it would all be different too.
They
I mean,
weren't
why is it the onus
occupying-
always
they
on
weren't
them?
Well, you believe in self-determination, I'm sure. Yes.
I believe in individual rights, yeah, sure.
Okay, individual rights. And that includes the right to make bad decisions. Yes. The Palestinians in Gaza, when they voted in Hamas, made a very bad decision.
Yeah, of course,
and
Douglas,
in the
but
years,
hang on. Yes.
hang on. And in the years after that, they made bad decision after bad decision. It was a very bad decision.
Doggone it, this
to
is not-
continually fire Egypt not to bring in supplies to the crossing points.
No.
Okay, here's the part. Sorry.
No deficit of goods coming in. I've been plenty of
There's
times.
no deficit?
No, there are
No
plenty
goods were
of,
kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been.
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can.
Well, right.
But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
No,
okay.
I find that
Lots
very.
of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so I
if
don't
you're
know
going to
what
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
all right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
Will you have to go and touch the ground? to
no,
be
I
able
think
talk
you have
about
to
it?
see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you
Okay.
spend a career talking about something. Yes, I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
Okay.
It's a
But that's
sort of
not
normal. It's a normal thing to do. You're talking about. Hang on. You're talking about crossing points. And not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the region.
Okay. Again, I think this is a non-argument.
Hang
I
on,
don't
no,
understand.
No, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument. If you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert, but still talking about it, about the provisions going into Gaza or not. If you've never...
You can watch it yourself, but you get what he's saying there is rather than challenging Dave's opinions or the facts he's bringing into the discussion, Douglas Murray, again, says you have no right to have an opinion on this because you've never been there. As if you can't say that, North Korea is bad, though I've never actually been to North Korea, or the way that the Chinese are treating some of their ethnic minorities are bad, but you've never been to China. It's just a ridiculous argument, and it's a chicken shit argument. Rather than saying, Dave, you're wrong and here's why, you're like, Dave, you've never been there, so how can you possibly have an opinion on this subject? He does this throughout this debate, where he'll basically completely keep challenging other people's opinions, and particularly Dave's opinion, on a subject because he's not an expert, he doesn't have a PhD, or he's never actually been to the Gaza-Egyptian border. And I expected more out of this debate. I got to be honest. I thought Douglas Murray, again, maybe because it's his accent, I don't know, but I thought he would be able to explain his position on why he's a very avid Israel supporter against Hamas, for instance, and have real reasons why he believes that, or the fact that he feels that Ukraine was completely innocent and we were completely innocent in the fact that Russia decided to attack them, And again, like Dave and some other people believe that even though Russia was wrong, there was a provocation. There was 40 years of provocation, and he won't even discuss those issues because he's so busy trying to diminish the people he's debating against rather than just making his points. And again, I was disappointed with Douglas. I thought he was better than that. And I'm not saying, again, you can watch it. Dave I really like him. I don't agree with a lot of his economic policies. The libertarians are a little unrealistic when it comes to what the real world is like. But Dave did a good job. He didn't kill him because he didn't have to, because Douglas Murray, frankly, he, in my opinion, he embarrassed himself. So watch the video. I'd be very curious if anybody wants to come back and comment and tell me what you thought about the debate once you watch it. All right, thanks. Bye.